we've got one of the most exciting topics to talk about, something I live, breathe, and eat, and so do all of our panelists and investors here today, and that is the future of financial technologies, from banking to the technologies that are powering it, whether it be artificial intelligence, to blockchain, to digital currencies, to everything in between. We are here talking about the future of finance. What does that mean today? What does that mean in a year from now? And what does that mean for the future ahead in the decade to come, as all of this deep technology, all of the other technologies we've talked about, starting to integrate, starting to converge and really push this industry that's been so established for decades or centuries in some cases, to now moving into an innovative age. What does that mean for us as investors? What does that mean for us as consumers? Where are the opportunities? Start building, start paying attention to, and what do you need to know to be successful in these industries as well? Well, that's what we're here to talk about on VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. And before we get started, a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. We're always appreciative to have you. And if you'd like to be on a show like today as an investor, do reach out to the LATOKEN team and or myself, and we'll find the right technology, industry, or region around the world for you to share your thoughts and insights, like our investors will do here shortly. And entrepreneurs, this is that sprint to the end of the year. It's that time when you're out there fundraising, when you're out there talking to investors, when you're out there selling your product and getting it into as many hands as possible. We have a virtual stage here at VCTV just for you. If you'd like the chance to pitch us as investors, get feedback in real time, and also pitch our live audience, we would love to have you. Do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you. And also a big thank you to Emmanuel and to the entire LATOKEN team for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and dive in. There's a ton happening in this space. We've got headlines coming out from Visa. We've got headlines coming out from PayPal. We've got companies being acquired, not in the millions, not in the tens, not in the hundreds of millions, but in the billions of dollars. We're seeing some of the leading fintech companies currently with market values over $1 trillion US, surpassing some of the largest banks in the world. Think about what that means for just a moment as we go through and get introductions from all of our outstanding guests. Matthew, welcome back to the show. You've got a new book. You are a great regular guest that we're having here on a VCTV around these subjects. Intro and a background and a little bit of a teaser for your book to the audience who may not know you.
Thanks a lot, Carl. And I'm here because I enjoy your enthusiasm and dynamism and your great questions. And it keeps me on my ball, on the ball. And also these other panelists always teach me a lot. So pleased to be here. I'm Matthew Lemerle. I'm based in San Francisco, though ordinarily I split my time in London too, not right now. We operate the leading blockchain venture fund of funds. So we are LPs, investors in most of the other pure play VCs, Blockchain Capital, where my partner, Alison Davis, chairs the advisory board, Blockchain Ventures, Castle Island, Fabric, Hashkey, and so on in North America, Europe, and Asia. So that's our first piece of the puzzle, and we're investors through that in 10 of the blockchain unicorns and in about 200 other blockchain projects and companies. But for today's topic, we have a lifetime of financial services. We started as consultants, Alison and I at McKinsey. Then we're senior partners of Carney, where we ran the global financial services practice. And so our clients were the world's biggest banks, asset managers, payment companies, and the like. And we continue to be involved. I'm sit on the advisory boards at Securitize, the leading tokenization platform, at SFOX, the leading independent crypto prime dealer. And I'm working with Uphold, one of the leading wallet companies, amongst others. And Alison is a director at Silicon Valley Bank, the leading technology bank, at least in America, and also Fiserv, the world's biggest payment company. So we have a bunch of stakes in the financial services world, and very interesting to hear how it's going to get much better with new technology and innovation.
Wonderful. And shameless promotion, you did just write a book. I'm giving you that outlet. You just wrote a book. You can throw it out there for the audience.
Okay, thank you. And I know we've got a lot of panelists, so I don't want to steal all the time. But yeah, so I wrote a book recently. I'd love for you to take a look. It's available everywhere. It's called The Ministry of Bitcoin. And basically, I started with the premise, the first 10 years of this century, a lot happened. Global terrorism, freedom of speech, anonymous WikiLeaks, the launch of Bitcoin, and so on. How are they all connected? Who really created Bitcoin and why? It's all in the book. Please find it, The Ministry of Bitcoin, and you'll get a lot of answers, even if they came out of my head. And I hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I've had the chance to dive into it myself, and
Thanks.
Shamelessly, I'll promote it as well. I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out, audience. We'll drop the link in the show notes afterwards as well. And thank you, Matthew. Vadim, welcome to the show. First time here with me around this subject on VCTV. Pleasure to have you. Similar to Matthew, a little intro, a little background, please.
Yes, thank you, Kyle. Thank you for having me. So I'm a partner at Monthly Ventures. It's a boutique venture capital firm here in Silicon Valley. We started this with my partners in a startup accelerator that we started prior to that. It's been 6 years, quite a ride. We've seen a lot of different waves of innovation and clusters of different topics and ideas that people were proposing at the time. But for the past 3 years, I'm concentrating on identity, fraud, and compliance. And I hope I can talk a little bit about that and why we believe that to be the next frontier in financial services and banking. So also today and throughout the past couple of years, looking for startups that exhibit good growth potential in a marketplace that built on top of identity and on top of tools that combat fraud and deal with compliance in some way, shape, or form. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. We're happy to have you as well. And we're definitely going to talk about that. I couldn't agree more around identity. So we're coming back to identity, security, and privacy. Don't worry. Don't you worry. Suam, welcome to the show for the first time as well here on VCTV. A little intro, a little background.
Thanks very much, Kyle, for having me here. I'm based out of India in Mumbai. I co-founded a group called Vivriti Group in 2007 with an objective of making debt markets in India efficient through the deep use of technology to bridge the gap between real and perceived risk. And today we run the largest online debt marketplace in the country. So very keen to talk to you guys about how tech can enable more efficient financial services. That's what I would like to focus on.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to the show. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being here as well. I know it's late on your side, so appreciate you staying up a little later with us. Telly, welcome back to the show, I should say. This is a theme that you have continued to be a part of us, our panels here on VCTV, because you do have so much in this area. You do focus on it. And a little intro, a little background for those who may not know you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on the show as usual. My name is Telly Onu, for those who don't know me. I live in St. Kitts and Nevis. If you see my background, that's actually a mountain. I'm from the Caribbean. I've been in the space for the beginning, since 2009. My background is a little different. I got into this space through I would say a multi-dimensional perspective. I started off in consulting over 20 years, but I've also been in tech as well and doing a lot in digital transformation. Within that, started looking at digital transformation in financial services back in 2012. Then met my co-founder for a number of our projects, Mackenzie, and in 2014, we launched a fintech incubator. And we've since started building and investing in a number of future of finance companies, I would say. Coming out of that incubator, there are a number of different portfolio companies, such as Beyond Capital Markets, which is one focused on designing protocols for digital financial market infrastructure. And then also we have just spun out Alt Schools. Alt School is a global alternative finance education platform. You could say tech school for finance, something that doesn't exist. And we're the first ones to pioneer it. And of course, our focus is really leveraging, having people learn about digital financial market infrastructures and how they can leverage that to move into the future of finance, and looking at how that drives embedded finance, amongst other things. So that's just a little bit about me. I guess you learn a little bit more as we go along.
Absolutely. And last but not least, another great guest that we've had here on this show here at VCTV, but also around these topics. Anuj, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background to those who may not know you.
Thank you, mate. Good to be back. So I am the founder of Yellow Sapphire Technologies and Atotum. Yellow Sapphire is a digital consulting company with expertise in fintech and health tech products. Prior to starting Yellow Sapphire, I have worked with Fidelity, where I was part of the pilot team that launched American Express gift cards in India and basically bought a first ever gift card to Southeast Asia. Along with that, I worked with American Express as part of the internal servicing unit team, where I was in charge of handling digital escalations for all tech products, working closely with American Express technologies, working out on integrations with American Express products with different products like Jawbone. Uh, so with Yellow Sapphire, we are working very deeply into PPI technologies in India, that's prepaid instruments. Along with that, we have worked on multiple peer-to-peer lending systems. We are working on various UPI technologies. So all in all, moving forward in the fintech industry.
Wonderful. And thank you all again for your time today. This is an exciting panel to have, but also an even more exciting topic to get into because of its relevancy in the world today, and specifically today in general and here in 2020. So much has happened in this industry, but technology has really started to converge with this industry and its surrounding as well. And we look towards what's been happening here in this last in 9 to 12 months that's really laying a foundation for the next decade ahead. And with that, Matthew, I want to come to you and just kind of teeing you up there as what is getting you excited. What are you seeing as the current state of fintech or financial technologies as a broader picture as well?
Well, thanks a lot, Kyle. And I know people who have listened to some of your other panels will have heard me say some of what I'm about to say before. But, we're only halfway through the creation of a digital world. And the first half, which was building out the internet and TCP/IP and everything that went with that, a communication protocol, is only the first shoe to drop. But obviously, finance is both a vertical, it's a body of companies and players in an industry, but it's also multiple horizontals. Every company in the world has financial issues, accounting, bookkeeping, and the like, financing issues. But they also have payment and transactional issues. They are commerce, they are in commerce, and they may be involved in investing too. And it turns out that all of those things, accounting, bookkeeping, payments, finance, none of those things occur natively within the internet today. Many of them are paper-based still. Many of their processes are decades old. And we need to transition all of those things to be natively digital for us to complete the journey towards a digital economy. And that's where we are right now. The biggest financial institutions and governments in the world understand this. They know that they have legacy infrastructure. They know that they're burdened in many ways. Speed, cost, effectiveness are all need to be better. And that's what we're building out. So for fintech entrepreneurs and investors, it couldn't be a better time. The whole world is upgrading its infrastructure. They're relying upon new technologies and new companies in many cases. And if you're an entrepreneur, you get the opportunity to build out a piece of that puzzle. And if you're an investor, you get to invest in probably the most important value creation phenomena that's occurring right now. So that's my view, Carl, and I'm very interested to hear if the other panelists agree.
Absolutely. And I'll just add, I agree. I don't think I can remember a time when the entire world was all on the same path towards upgrading an infrastructure. One could argue when the internet was introduced on a more globalized scale, that was one time. This feels something different, both in an exciting way and an intriguing way as to, again, where that will go. Because as we know, global markets in countries around the world are looking at their financial infrastructure, to Matthew's point, and saying, what's next? How do we bring these technologies in? And we have to do it fast, and we have to do it now. What type of impact that has, we're going to continue to find out. Vadim, to you, what are you seeing as the current state of fintech, financial technologies, banking, and blockchain as well?
Well, I think the state of APIs and all the other technologies are there. They're good enough today to create value in the marketplaces. There's probably incremental changes that could be made, but I think the biggest shift financial services is going to be financial inclusion. More than half of the population of this earth don't have access to traditional financial services that we take advantage of and consider ubiquitous every day. And I think that that's going to be the big shift. There is an opportunity out there for investors, for entrepreneurs to do good and to make money on those services. And if you're curious, I can tell you a little bit more about what I believe to be that shifting point, and that is identity. It's access to identity, which is at the foundation of opportunities like those.
Absolutely. Feel free to go a level deeper. I feel like you're holding back on something, so I'm going to push you for a second. Go a level deeper.
There's a lot. There's definitely.
We're going to come.
Okay.
We'll come back to identity.
No worries.
We'll come back to identity, but go one level deeper on the rest of it.
One level deeper. So there's APIs and there's different companies out there that are creating value chains that enable a wide scope of different technologies out there. For example, card issuance or different other innovative financial services to issue to the demographic that already has access to financial services. However, there's a tremendous barrier to getting into those innovative ideas and products and services, and that is regulation and compliance. And so traditionally, it's been very hard for startups to break into that space, for smaller startups with small funding and small runways to really make a dent and to get to a point where they can start demonstrating value. Democratizing that process is the next frontier, is to enable and empower smaller startups to really remove that barrier and provide them access to compliant services to concentrate on their value-added services in their financial sector. So that is something that a lot of folks are concentrating on. And I truly believe that that would provide the next leap in the financial services, which would also provide an opportunity for extending financial inclusion to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And on previous episodes here around this topic, we've talked a little bit about the activities that are happening in Latin America, so LATAM, and the opportunities that are existing. There we're on that same page, just like identity. What's happening around the rising middle class, but really just in general, what's happening there, and the opportunities around fintech seem to be endless as that market starts to grow and open up as well. But we'll come back on that. So to you, what are you seeing as the current state of activity around fintech and financial technologies, banking, and the like?
Kyle, I'm going to talk specifically about India here because we're 1 billion people finally, a little more than that actually. And I completely resonate what Vadim said. I think that the future of finance in India is advent of technology to take financial services to the masses. And that's the only way when you democratize data, when you make it easier for lenders to reach masses. Now that's easier said than done. And at the moment, if you only have to look at the numbers to be fully convinced that a very large population of India and emerging markets, countries that are similar to India, are completely outside the realm of financial services. Now, there are two issues here. And through the last decade, I've been focusing on both sides. If you see financial services firms which are trying to use technology to reach masses, there are challenges. in terms of reach, in terms of use of technology, what's available, and so on. What we identify as an even bigger challenge is simply the state of underdeveloped debt markets in emerging nations like India, where we believe that the role of technology can be unprecedented. So what we do, for example, I'm just going to take a few seconds to say a little about what we do as a company. Our belief is that unless we are able to bridge the gap between real and perceived risk in capital markets, money won't reach financial services companies which have the last mile reach to enable financial inclusion. So which is why what we run today is a unique online debt marketplace where issuers can post a massive amount of information digitally about themselves. Investors can look at that, make up their mind to invest, and that's how we look at channeling flow of money. So to my mind, the role of fintech in a country like ours is providing the basic level of financial services that we need to eliminate poverty and improve livelihood.
So a quick follow-up around that. So you are in India, and India we know has had billions with a big capital B invested in the last 6 months around financial technologies, whether that be around financial inclusion to Fadim's point, or whether that be around other infrastructural blockchain technologies, as Matthew had referenced earlier. I want to come to you and just get your thoughts. You know, we see Facebook putting a ton of resources behind WhatsApp and bringing WhatsApp in terms of payments into the region. We see, again, billions with a capital B being invested in some of the biggest platforms to open up more financial inclusion in the region. Are these beneficial? So are these activities beneficial towards the greater financial inclusion of the masses, or do you see more opportunity at the startup level? Just would love to hear your general thoughts on that.
Well, thanks for asking that, Kyle. I think there are segments of financial services which are benefiting from investments and also the advent of technology. The penetration of technology in those are better than others. For example, remittances, payments, insurance, these are the ones which are gaining steam and are seeing the advent of technology. What isn't is lending, be it lending to individuals or enterprises. And what is not definitely seeing any sort of tech advent is capital markets. And those are areas which I think will benefit from the fact that you have more sophisticated payment systems, you have a better credit bureau, you have quicker access to information. But there is still quite a big leap to take in terms of dissipating this asymmetry so that one can go ahead and lend confidently. So that, I think, is still some time away.
Yeah, and I think that's also a big greater issue throughout Southeast Asia. But again, we'll come back to that. Anjun, you said you had a point to add on that. I saw you raise your hand. So I'll let you go ahead and continue. And then Telly, I'm coming to you next.
Thank you so much, mate. So, I mean, you raised a very valid point, and I was actually going to talk about it because most of us on this panel are engineers. We are deeply into technology. So for us, it's very easy to get lost into technology when we talk about finance. When you're talking about a country like India with 1.2 billion people, when you're talking about Southeast Asia with countries like Vietnam, Myanmar, that majorly accounts for 1/3 of the world population. One thing we often tend to miss out on is financial knowledge. Because while we have banking services in India, while we have government taking initiative to bring out these services to more and more people, let's not forget that in 2017, the government rolled out banking services to the grassroots people, to the lowest income people. They were able to set up their bank account. Those bank accounts are zero balance. They have the debit cards. But what's the result? With the lack of financial knowledge, those bank accounts are now empty. They do not have any deposits. Those cards are not being used. And that's why one of the major key factors that's going to come in post 2020 world, and one of the major fintech or financial innovation is not only going to be in terms of developing technology for the banking sector or for the finance sector, but making sure that we are actually educating more people in Southeast Asia. You still have people who don't know about investing, how they can grow their money, what other investing options do they have. So for them, while it's great that fintech companies like Paytm or PhonePe that are backed by SoftBank and Walmart are coming in and putting in billions of dollars behind them, that's basically exploding the financial services. But it's equally important that we make sure that we take the low income people, educate them about financial services, and make sure we get them into the banking sector, not just in terms of numbers, not just in setting up their account, that, all right, they do have an account, but actually making sure that they are using it, that they understand how important it is to have money in their account, how important it is to save that money. And that's one change where I see the industry moving forward to.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I'll just add one thing before I come to you, Telly. So one quick point. You know, we talk about this level of education a lot around in reference to financial inclusion, right? Allowing those who may not have had entrance into this area to be further educated on what to do, what not to do. But really, what we're starting to see, and we've seen this here in the United States and even in Europe as well, is new apps have come to light that it's really a bigger problem that everyone or a bigger mass really needs financial education, right? So when it comes to lending, when it comes to investing, when it comes to savings, when it comes to the use and just general tracking of those financial worlds of each of ours, there's education to be had everywhere. So just to add on to that, I think it's a bigger opportunity even further than those that are first entering the market, as we're starting to see as well. But great point as well. And Telly, to you, current state, what are you seeing around finance and then also blockchain? You also run a school around educating on this too. So.
Yeah, the knowledge infrastructure. That's part of the future of finance. So I agree with Anuj in that. Well, all the speakers have touched on a key part of that financial market infrastructure. And I think holistically, we have to look at it holistically. Before you even do anything electronic or digital, you should have identity. So that is like your base layer. Without identity, you cannot interconnect. You can't identify who is in the ecosystem, and you can't verify, participation. So I do agree with you, Vadim, but then what I don't agree with you as it's the only thing. Because yes, okay, I got my identity. I'm still broke, So and then what we have seen though, especially when you look at it from the perspective of emerging markets, payments, the innovation really started with financial innovation and innovation in payments. If you remember, M-Pesa had launched a payment infrastructure, and that just blew up. And then that started coming to the West, right? So yes, payments is one of those things that facilitates financial flows, but it's not the only thing. SOIM focuses on lending, and my concern with that is it's always been payments and banking, and fintech has moved on from just payments and banking. Unfortunately, in developing countries, be it India, Bangladesh, us in the Caribbean, Latin America, in Africa, it's a bank-centric model. So let's put it into context. I go back to what Matthew said. We're dealing with an 18th century infrastructure. 18th. Imagine if you had a car that's 18th century, would it be working? All rusty and holy, and that's just the financial system. And unfortunately, it's something that's always been in the background. It's filled up with bigger institutions that are also convoluted with old processes, and that just has to evolve, and it's starting to evolve. You're having central banks starting to get involved in trying to issue their own, digital currency to be part of they want to still be part of the mix of this new digital economy. So that's the reality. And as you said, a person, when it comes to an individual, just think about all the things you need. Risk. I think Sam and Anuj dealt with the risk part. Insurance. How do I protect myself? I live in the region where we got hurricanes. I want to be able to know that if a hurricane hits my house, I should be able to recover like in 5 days or less, So payments comes into play, but it's a little bit more than payments. You got the insurance infrastructure. As Anuj said, how are we educating people holistically? And that's always been a big gap. Coding schools from now till tomorrow, that's all great. And that functions at the bottom layer. But technology, and as if we're technocentric, we're not really addressing adoption easily. And this is the big gap. tech people are building all these things and they're fantastic and beautiful and not necessarily building with the customers in mind. So that whole part of the design economy has to come into place from the perspective of a user flows and user experience, superior user experience. And that's part of the infrastructure. So it's really knowledge. It's a design economy behind it, design user experience that is driving this whole process. And that is why things are getting more connected. As Matthew said, communication start with the common layer. Then it also started happening with energy, and you're having the energy infrastructure on the one side doing the same thing that this new financial infrastructure, and they're actually coming together to provide and deliver totally new business models and services. So our framework for how we see and how we have developed this digital financial market infrastructure is quite holistic, because this is the issue with the market. Everybody moved to platforms. Great. Two-sided markets. We stopped focusing on just singular markets. But we have not effectively, efficiently moved into ecosystems. And in moving into an ecosystem model, you have to now build in a lot of value and build in solutions for very different types of target markets and target segments at the same time. That means it has to be hyper-connected. It has to be incredibly streamlined, and it must be absolutely efficient. And these customers, people, want it now. They want everything to happen at such a pace. So no longer can just a single solution solve a problem. You end up having to build 20 solutions. So in our context, in our incubator, what's happened is we've kind of have companies that are solving different parts and have all come together to come up with an embedded infrastructure. And within that, within their models, they also have an ecosystem model. So now we're not just looking at embedded services, we're actually looking at verticalization of finance. And then we're also looking at how finance applies across value chains of other industries. At the end of the day, once the infrastructure is totally streamlined, any business will be a fintech company. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It means it's like Uber.
Yeah, we've heard a ton
Uber
about
made that big announcement,
Yeah,
hey, we're finance.
Exactly. We've heard a ton about that. We're looking at, every company becoming a fintech company, every company becoming a finance company.
Right.
And to break it down even further from Telly's point as well is, everyone does a transaction. There's transactions all over the place. And Matthew brought this up as well. It's just that back office. We'll kind of summarize it, right? The idea of transacting from the HR side of things to invoicing to just everything that's been done so paperized today. I mean, even today, here in 2020, I'll be the first to say it or the second to say it, since Matthew already did, that there's so much still paper-wise. And that is all being moved into a digital world, but that still has opportunities that need to be solved for at the infrastructural level. And Matthew, I'm going to come to you in 1 second, but real quick, Vadim, I want to come to you. I mean, what's getting you excited about identity? On Soam, Telly, and Anuj's point around these areas of education, financial inclusion, but also just really opening up the doors for so many. Why is identity so exciting for you? What is the opportunity about identity and finance that makes it such a big deal?
As I'm listening to our panelists, there's a number of challenges that need to be addressed. However, in order for folks to concentrate on those challenges and not get bogged down by regulatory challenges, there's a fundamental piece of technology that needs to exist. And I challenge anybody to name a piece of technology as fundamental as identity to any of the issues that we just mentioned. Fraud, compliance, education, lending, risk, all comes down to being able to identify, verify, and authenticate individuals and distinguish them from other individuals that want to take advantage of the system. The advent of the digital age brought about a lot of opportunity to fraud. And I don't have to mention how 2020 changed that whole paradigm and accelerated our thinking in that regard. But identity, I believe, is at the core of everything that we're talking about here. That will enable better fraud mitigation solutions. It will enable easier compliance with regulatory pressure coming out from different jurisdictions, no matter where you are. And solving that problem and outsourcing that problem to somewhere else will enable a slew of different technology companies to concentrate on improving knowledge bases, improving user experience, and coming up with innovative solutions to provide not only financial services, but also lending, and specifically micro-lending. Because a lot of those things could be solved within the framework of existing regulatory frameworks. You don't have to invent digital currency, for example, in order to facilitate some of these services that could be enabled on top of existing financial services and banking services in existence today. It all comes down to playing nicely with regulators, and identity is at the core of that. And we believe that at Global ID, for example.
Yeah, and I agree. And Matthew, I want to come to you next. I see you've already unmuted, but I do have a question. I know you want to follow up, but I do have a quick question for you. As you do see so much in both fintech and blockchain and in between, what has you most excited, or what are 2 or 3 areas that are super exciting that people need to be paying attention to now and here in the coming year? After your comment, of course.
Well, no, that's a really big question, Carl. And the reason why it's such a big question is what we've already said, which is every industry is every company is a finance or a financial company because they're in the business of commerce. So I have to say that payments and electronic commerce is top of my mind when you ask a question like that, because there is no country, no government, and no business that isn't in the business of payments in one way or another. And payments are going to change dramatically because they're going to go natively digital. And whether that's in the form of new monies, or whether it's in the form of new payment rails and payment systems, where old fiat currencies go digital, is, I think, something we're going to find out more about. But I think that payments would be top of my mind. And I do agree with the other folks' points, Vadim and Telly's points, that there are activities like the verification of the identity of an individual, which are important across all of the things I'm talking about. But viewed through the, what are we trying to accomplish? Payments would be top of mind for me. The second thing is investments. Trillions of dollars are invested in all sorts of asset classes globally, and half of those paper-based. And even those that are not paper-based, like, for example, public equities, they're not as easy to access as they should be. And many people around the world have difficulty accessing them, which is why platforms like Uphold and Robinhood have suddenly accelerated ahead. So if my first is the payment solutions of the world, my second is digitizing the world's investments and everything that goes with that. And then thirdly, I do agree with this point about, we've got 8 billion people around the world, and about 3 billion of them are still not digitally enabled. And I think we can leapfrog them into the new digital world and give them the access they need and that they should have, and do it with new to the world technologies. So they don't need to be issued a passport. They just need to get a new digital identity and get onto a mobile platform and get to work. So these are 3 big blocks. And then the last thing I'll say before I hand off on this is convergence. We've gone through a phase of the last 5 or so, maybe 10 years, where we've had single purpose mobile fintech solutions. Okay, so I go to an online banking app. I have an online investment app. Let's say the first was First Republic, the second was TD Ameritrade. Then I have a payment app like a PayPal or a Venmo. Then I have a crypto wallet like a Coinbase or an SFOX. And then I might have a communication app like a Telegram or a WhatsApp. It makes no sense that we've got fragmented single purpose applications. So they're all going to converge. So you already see this a little bit in China, where, if you are a WeChat user, you can borrow money, lend money, peer-to-peer, you can take out insurance, you can make an investment. Well, Uphold here in the West is doing the same thing. Robinhood is adding functionality. They're all beginning to converge. And this is a very big point, because I think if you're an entrepreneur and you want to create a single purpose mobile app against a fintech use case, you're going to get blown out of the water when that functionality is embedded in a multidimensional mobile financial services solution. And so this convergence is occurring as we speak. It will make things much harder for startups, but I think it's inevitable. There's no user in the world that wants, 15 apps that they have to fragment their financial services across. And the really powerful, user-friendly, converged and combined solutions are going to win. And so I throw that out as a fourth point, because I think we're already seeing it happen right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you. And I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, the idea of the world's super apps, with your reference to WeChat and others as well, this is inevitable, and also a huge opportunity as you are building your businesses, thinking how those will integrate, how those will play, and not just from the singular perspective as well. Everyone, we are coming up to the lightning round, so I do want to come to you each for your closing thoughts and areas of opportunities, along with where everyone can find you online. So as we do quickly come around, again, thank you all for your time, your thoughts, and your insights today. So I want to start with you. Area of opportunity that you're excited about, people need to pay attention to, and then also where can everyone find you online?
I think the area of opportunity for tech in financial services is in dissolving asymmetry and democratizing data. That is what will lead to financial inclusion. People can find me on LinkedIn. That's the most preferred. It's Shomendra Ghosh. That's my full name.
Wonderful. And thank you. Thank you again. Telly, to you, quick closing thoughts, area of opportunity and then where can everyone find you online?
Quick closing thoughts. I would say big opportunity for convergence is also in the area of climate finance. That's a big opportunity for us to kind of recreate a sustainable future, and having that embedded with the digital financial market infrastructure. Key takeaway, I would say our knowledge infrastructure is incredibly important. In moving into this transition, you're going to need higher value skills and competencies. And so how you can find us on AltSchools, altschools.co, and you can find me on LinkedIn. We're offering postgraduate level of programs for alternative finance professionals and those who are getting into the industry as well. One of the big gaps we see is all the tech people don't have financial skills, and that's a big risk and a serious problem. So we are a tech school for finance, and check us out. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Telly. Anuj, to you, again, areas of opportunity, where can everyone find you online?
Thank you so much, mate. So, I mean, I've said this before multiple times that even at Yellow Sapphire Technologies, one of the key areas that we are working on has always been user management, making sure that the data is working properly. Along with that, I do see an area of opportunity, like I mentioned, in financial inclusivity, make sure that we are getting people on the platform, not just in terms of numbers, but actually making sure that we get them to use it. So recommendation engines, chatbots, basically something to help users out. Along with that, for security, there's always scope to add biometric authentication. That's one area which I'm surprised that hasn't really caught up or taken fire in 2020. But yeah, I do see something great happening in those sectors. In case if you're a fintech company who'd like to reach out to us, please check out yellowsapphiretech.com, or you can tweet me at Anuj, that's ANUUJ, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. It'll be pretty easy to find me.
Wonderful. And Vadim, to you, quick closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online?
Yeah, digital identity, and specifically self-sovereign digital identity. Identity that belongs to nobody but us. That is the next frontier that we truly believe in. And you can find me and engage with me a little bit more on this topic at global.id/VS. You can message me from there, and I will respond to everybody that wants to chat. Thank you.
Wonderful. Matthew, close us out.
Yes, so I do believe that this is one of the most important areas for the world at large. It's critical as we move towards a digital economy. Whether you're an entrepreneur or an investor watching this, I would encourage you to get informed. It's a big opportunity area. Alice and I have written a lot of books, best-selling books in the past on investing, innovation, and how to participate. And because we've got Anuj and we've got Soom on this call, I want to tell you that for India, we just dropped the price of everything to 199 rupees on Amazon, Apple, and so on. And the reason we did that was because we want everyone in India to have the opportunity to fully take advantage of this opportunity. There's great technology skills in that part of the world, but there aren't too many global fintechs coming out of India yet, and we'd like to see more. So please just go to any of those locations. The ebooks have been dropped to us the lowest possible price that we can give them away on Amazon for everyone in India. And thank you so much. How to contact me, Carl? Subliminal advertising, fifthera.com, blockchaincoinvestors.com. It's been there throughout this webinar. Thank you, Carl, as always.
Absolutely. And all, thank you so much again for your time and your insights today, and for staying a little late as we run over here on time today. But we do appreciate everything that you guys shared today, and we're looking forward to having all of you back to continue the conversation around where financial technology, whether it also includes blockchain, digital currencies, and the underlying deep infrastructure that is powering this, talking more about this. This is a regular topic we're having here on BCTV because it is changing so rapidly, not just month by month, week by week, but now day by day. As Matthew said, this is something that the entire world is focused on, an infrastructural change that everyone is looking at and focused on and has to do now. So with that being said, again, thank you all for joining today. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to be on this show here with VCTV talking about today's subject or others, do reach out to the LA Token team and or myself, and we'll find the right episode for you. Entrepreneurs, same to you. Definitely reach out to us if you'd like to get up on the virtual stage and pitch us as investors around your company, product, and services. With that, a big thank you to Emmanuel and to the entire LA Token team for helping VCTV possible every single day, multiple times a day, all around the world. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We will be back here tomorrow and the rest of the week to talk to you more about what's happening in different technologies, industries, and regions around the world to keep you up to date. I'll talk to you soon, and you can find me everywhere, just like our guests today, on social media, 365, 24/7, at Kyle Ellicott. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.